I'm the best at everything. Everyone wants to be like me. No one can be as good as me at anything. Do you really want to hear this as a member of the audience? Well, most of the time, your answer is probably no. I learned a lot about public speaking throughout this semester. And like many of you, I don't like to hear people brag and talk about themselves throughout the entire speech. With that being said, as this semester flew by, one term that I really learned a lot about was audience centeredness with public speaking. I'm going to talk to you about how it's impacted me with my skills in public speaking. It is your audience that should be your main focus at all times, not yourself. Audience centered rather than speak centered addresses audience as a group of individuals and not a thing. A lot of people think of public speaking as I'm just going to talk and tell everyone what I know. But you should really think about how your audience what they want to hear and what are you really trying to tell them. You want to make an impact on them in a positive way. So at times we can almost think college lectures are somewhat like this. Because a lot of times we'll go to a lecture and you feel like the teacher's just talking and then you leave. Well, this is just one of many examples of what sometimes people think is self-centered rather than audience-centered. Not many people want to hear other people go on about themselves, as I already talked about. I don't think many people like to hear someone brag and talk about themselves the entire time of the speech. I'm one of those people too that doesn't like to hear that. From a locker room to a business to a family dinner, I'll always consider my audience before anything to show my uttermost respect. This course made me change my preparation ways when preparing for a speech. I used to just follow a rubric, and now I think about information from the perspective of an audience member rather than just myself. Each type of speech impacts the audience in a different way. A locker room would most likely be pump up or motivate the audience, while a business speech would most likely be just to inform and discuss, maybe use a preparation outline, a slideshow, something like that. So every time you make a speech, you realize that everyone in your audience is different. Because of this, there are many reasons why it is important to reach out and really try to meet these people and understand how they think way ahead of time. So for future speeches, I will always consider my audience before anything else. Everyone has a different frame of reference. According to Jason Wrench's Stand Up, Speak Out, The Practices of Public Speaking, a frame of reference is an individual's unique set of perspective, experience, knowledge, and values. An example of this would be a political campaign for president. We've all seen those before. While many of us supporters will follow their favorite, there will always be people that have opposing views. Another possible example of how someone who has been in a car accident might be less open to texting and driving than someone who hasn't. That's just an example of someone that is really less open to talk about something when they have personal experience behind it. So considering both demographic and psychographic information, they're both very different. They're both very significant because psychological information is harder to determine, and I learned that this is the reason. Always be sincere of all people when you're speaking. So in other words, you got to really be careful of what you're saying because you don't want to offend people for how they believe. And a lot of people don't consider that. They just say what they want to say, but this is another reason why you got to base it on your audience, not yourself. So psychological information, more attitude-based. Demographic relates more to like race, gender, etc. So in conclusion, I really believe that the most important concept I learned was to be sincere of your audience. Today I reviewed how I have learned more about the concept of audience-centeredness, and that has changed my perspective on public speaking. So next time you watch a public or a presidential campaign, does your candidate really care about you or just themselves? I'll leave you on that note.